Good evening. Hi everyone join us today. God is good. God is good all the time. My name is Irma Gerald Spirit Divine. I'm here to give you a word on tonight, and we still doing Bible study. We getting closer and closer to the promised land, and the title is gonna be on crossing the Jordan. Cause God gonna give them sign so they can know that God is with Joshua, just like He was with Moses. So Joshua and all the Israelites, they set out from where they was at and went to the Jordan. Because they got to cross over the Jordan and get to the Canaan, to get to the land. So where they camped before crossing over, so now they get before now they getting ready to cross over to the Jordan. And remember that they have the ark along with them. you know. They should have Joseph ID too, but I guess they're gonna talk about that later on. Because remember Joseph promised them to bring his body along the camp. So they're gonna have Joseph body, but then speaking on that now, but they're gonna have the ark they're gonna have to carry to cross over the Jordan River. You know, so they have the ark along with them, and now the priest, there's the only one, the only one that got the position, to follow them. They're the only one able to touch them. Remember, God had positioned them to. They're the only ones to carry their ark. So now they're trying to not have no one to get near. Because see, dealing with that ark, God have only the priest to deal with that ark, to touch the ark, to carry the ark. Nobody can touch it, and nobody can go near it. So they have to stay a distance from it besides the priest. So the Ark of the Covenant was Israel's most scarlet treasure. That is treasure. So I was a symbol of God present and power. So the Ark was a golden rectangular box, with two servants facing each other on the lid. Moses made that Ark. When he did the two tablets and everything, God had told him to build an altar. So he built that altar. He put them two tablets in there and something in a Ten Commandments. Everything God instructed him to do, like Ten Commandments and all that stuff he had to write down, all that is in that ark. So inside the ark was the tablets in the Ten Commandments. So Moses received from God a jar of a manna, and also, God had told him to take some of the man and put that in a jar and place that and also in the ark. You know. Now God miracle had sent from heaven during the desert, wandering around at Aaron's staff. According to God's law, only the Levi um, should carry the ark, the Levi and the priest. They're the only ones to carry the ark. And see what's inside that ark is treasure. God's word is treasure. Like this Bible, like everywhere I go, even when I go to town, when I went to Atlanta, I took the Bible with me. Your Bible, God's word is treasure that you want to carry with you everywhere you go. So Joshua had told the people to concentrate yourself. Now, before they get to this promised land, they have to concentrate yourself before they even meet God. So Joshua told them, but all the people, you got to concentrate yourself, letting them know tomorrow that the Lord will have amazing things among you. So God always has surprises for you. So Joshua had told the priests to take up the ark of the covenant, and he want the priests to go ahead of them. Now, see, with that ark, you know, Joshua telling the priests, y'all get ready because you're gonna have to go ahead of the Israelite with the ark, and they went ahead of the people just like Joshua said. So before entering the promised land, the Israelite, were to perform a consecration. That means a ceremony. That means this was often done before making a sacrifice. They had to clean themselves. Remember Jacob family had to meet God. And remember Jacob had everybody in his family, they had to get clean. Everybody had to take a bath. They had to get rid of a whole lot of images they was doing too. You had to clean yourself before the meet God. So the concentration ceremony, picture the importance of approaching God, with a pure heart. So now God is about, you know, to God is about to prove to the Israelites, because remember God made a statement to Joshua, I'm gonna be with you, just like I was with Moses. So the Israelites wanted a sign. They want to make sure that you're going to be with Joshua. Because you giving Joshua a big old job to do. They want to know, and Moses did all kind of miracles. God had Moses to do all kind of miracles with that staff. So they wonder if you're going to be with Joshua, just like you were with Moses, to get us through that, get us to our promised land. So now God is about to prove to the Israelites that He is with Joshua, just like He was with Moses. The Lord said to Joshua, today, I will begin to exalt you in the eyes of all the Israelites. Because see, when God wants to show His glory, when people have doubt and don't believe, He likes to have everybody right there. Just like He said, I'm going to exalt you, Joshua, right in front of the Israelites. So they may know that I am with you, as I said I was with Moses. So now God is telling Joshua, so tell the priest, who carrying the ark of the covenant, when you reach the edge of the Jordan. Now he getting the priest instruction what God had done. You see, God about to perform something right in front of the Israelites, and to let them know the same thing I did with Moses, I'm about to do the same thing with Joshua. So when you reach the edge, so He's telling him, you're gonna go to the edge. You're gonna go to the edge of the Jordan or the water. Go and stand in a river. Now, he telling him to go to the edge of the Jordan, meaning in the middle part, of the water. And gonna tell him to stand there. And you cannot move, you got to stand there. Now he's standing there alone with the ark. You see what I'm saying? He said, take the ark with you. He said, carry the ark of the covenant when you reach the edge of the Jordan. So God about to do something. They don't understand what God about to do. But He about to show them something to let them know, I'm with Joshua, just like I was with Moses. I'm about to perform something with Joshua, just like I had performed with Moses. So now the priest is the only one who is allowed to carry the ark. They were ordered to stand in the edge of the water. The Bible got an edge of the water. But I do my research. It's talking about the middle of the water, and stand there. And that was ordered by God. And they got to stand there until God said, you can move. So God guidance. God guidance. The priest had to walk. The priest had to walk into the stormy current of the flood. So they still had the water going on. The flood, and it was just going backwards and forwards. And God had told them, you get that off, and I need y'all to go in the middle of the water. While all that water just flowing side to side. You know how the storm comes, the water just waving, going like this here. And they had to stand there. And that's why they have their art. So their art is not going to make that wave go so strong and knock them down. So and they stand there. They stand there, so what in order to scoff at, so they obey, but they obey without any visible proof, without any proof, without any asking any question, anybody else, is God say, go stand in the middle of the water, they're like, what? What? Is for what? They didn't ask no question. They didn't mumble or nothing. They said go in the middle of that water. They went in the middle of the water with their own art. So without any visible proof, that they were doing right. They were doing right and carrying the ark right into the river. That the water rolled backwards and forwards, rolling backwards and forwards, and they didn't understand. They didn't understand why they had to go in the middle of the water, and just had to stand there with the ark. They didn't understand, but they followed orders. They followed. It's all about following orders. A lot of time, in my storm, I don't understand or fully understand what's going on, but you still got to follow orders and you still have to obey, even if you don't understand. So they didn't understand why they had to stand in the water, but they obeyed God's guidance. It may be us. As we go on with God, we may be called again to walk right into our own river. I'm in mine, and wet our feet, you know. They had to wet their feet. They had to go while the storm was still going on. Water just waving side to side. And they had to go, and in the middle part of the water, the river of the water, that's kind of high. And then with the water flow, but they follow the orders. It's by the guidance from God. It was a reason when God tells, we don't understand at the moment. But a lot of time when God give us order, sometimes we may not understand it. But we have to follow the order because at the end of the day, it makes sense. So they didn't understand. So we may be called to do what nobody understands, like the priest. In our journey. You know, we may be called. God might call us to do something that we don't even understand. Just like they did. They had to go in the middle of the water. They understand why they had to go in the middle of the water. So we may be called to do what nobody understands. Except those to whom the word of godness is given. And with it, his promise too. So Joshua has said to the Israelites, come and listen to the words of the Lord your God. Now God will show them how he will be with them. He will be with Joshua. Now Joshua is telling all the Israelites, now you got the priests in their position. So now Joshua need to speak to all the Israelites. I need y'all to come on up here. You know, you you about to witness something. So I need y'all to stand right here. I need y'all to listen to this word that coming from God. So God will show them how He is with them. Because they wants to make sure so that He will certainly drive out before you the Canaanites. The order of the covenant of the law of all the earth will go into the Jordan ahead of you. So He's saying the priest, to all that gonna go ahead of you. It's gonna go ahead of you because that needs to be protected. Can anything come behind them? So now Joshua was told to choose 12 men from the tribes of the Israelites. Now he got to chose 12 tribes of the Israelites. Just before crossing over into the promised land, Joshua gathered the people to hear the word of the Lord, and their excitement, was high. They were screaming high, because they know God about to show us something. So they was all excited. He said, no doubt they wanted to rush on, but Joshua, they wanted to rush on to their promised land. But Joshua said, well, hold up, I need y'all to gather around here, because I need to speak a word to y'all from God. So Joshua made them to stop and listen. He said, when they say a word is coming from God, no matter what we're doing, that's just like with Moses. Moses was telling to his duties, dealing with the yard and everything else when he was on that strange land. He saw the burning fire by the bush, and he heard somebody talking. So he stopped what he was doing to go to that bush to see who was talking, and it was God giving him his purpose, for his life. So sometimes when you hear that word of God, you got to stop what you're doing sometimes, and listen. So Joshua had made them to stop and listen. Now we need to we live in a fast-paced world. We always on the go. We got to go. We always on the fast pace. You see, they were ready to go to their promised land. And so Joshua said, hold on, I need y'all to stop, and I need y'all to listen. So where everyone rushed just to keep up, it is easy to get caught up in our duties. Becoming too busy for what God said is more important. Listen to His word. A lot of time we all just busy with life. That's why I try to put everything in a schedule. I try to do everything I need to do in the house and everything else, fold clothes, because women, we got to do everything, but our purpose is more important too, so I do everything I got to do in the house. And then when I sit down and putting this stuff together and connecting with God, you have to put all that in your schedule. Before I even go to kitchen, I said, wait a minute, now let me pray and connect with God first before I go do this here. Because see, we got to put that all into our schedule. So that's what they're saying here. So God saying more important to listen to His word, and it is. It's important to listen to His word. It's important to listen to whatever He have to say. So the Israelite, so you remember when Mary, with Joseph with Mary, you know, and Jesus was preaching that word to the fellas. So she was the only woman with the guys went over there at Jesus' feet like this here, listen to all the words that Jesus was saying, because she know it was very important and it was very insane, to the listen to the word that he was saying. So listen to that word. It's always very important. Reading that Bible is always very important. So the Israelite is a holy nation. God made them a holy nation. That's why God keep on trying to keep them away from serving other gods and all that. So that's why God need them to drive out everybody in Canaanite land before they get in that land, because they all worshiping other God, image of God. And see, God told them, I don't need y'all to leave nobody in there. Children all got to go. They all worshiping other God and bowing down to it. So God said, I don't need the Israelite. It's a holy nation. I made them out of holy nation. So I want that land with honey and milk. I need to stay holy. So that means everything got to go, so they won't corrupt the Israelite. So the Israelite is a holy nation, and that's why when they possess that land, everyone in that land have to go. They're all wicked. They cannot stay among the holy nation they're about to enter. So such as the priests, who carry the law of all the earth has set forth in Jordan, and its water flowing downstream would be cut off and stand up in the heat. So once the priests get in their position, in their water with that ark, the water, the floating out of water gonna cut off. you know. And so the people broke camp to cross the Jordan, and the priests carried the ark of the covenant and went ahead of them. So the priests had carried the ark, reached the Jordan, and their feet touched the other edge. So that means they got to the point where God had wanted them to be at. The water edge. When they got to the water edge, that's what God wanted them to be at. So the water upstream had stopped flowing. So once they got to that part that God had wanted them to be at, remember he told them to go to the edge of that water. So they got to the edge of that water, and the upstream had stopped flowing. So you got the Israelites witness all that. So it stopped floating. So while the water was flowing down to the sea, it had completely had stopped, completely had got cut off. So when the water had stopped, the people crossed over. So the people crossed over. So this is something like what God did with Moses. So that's why he told them, I'm about to show y'all that I'm with y'all, just like I was with Moses. Because remember, God had put the water on, had the water go on dry ground for them to cross over. Now they're doing it again. So when the water had stopped, the people crossed over Jericho River. So the priests who carried the ark of the covenant of the Lord had stopped in the middle of the Jordan and stood on dry ground. While all the Israelites had passed by until the whole nation had completed the crossing of the dry ground. Now see, God had showed them a miracle just like he did with Moses. Showing them, I'm with you. I told you I'm gonna be with you, just like I was with Moses. Just like walking over that crossing of that Red Sea. I had to ride that water up to dry ground. So y'all can cross over. Now this time, I had a stream of water to cut off. For y'all to walk on dry ground. Now y'all can walk on dry ground. So I'm showing y'all. Yeah, I perceived the same miracle that I did with Moses. So I'm letting you know I'm with Joshua. I'm with y'all the whole time, the whole way until y'all enter into y'all promised land. So So the priest who carried the ark or the covenant of the Lord just stopped in the middle of the Jordan and stood on dry ground. So when it was in the middle of the aisle, in the middle of the water, with that ark, then they stood on dry ground because all the floating of the water had stopped, had got cut off. So while the Israelites passed by until the whole nation had completely crossed on dry ground. Now that was a miracle. That was a miracle. That's the second time God had allowed them to cross on dry ground. That's the miracle He did with Moses. Now he done the same miracle with Joshua. So this is a sign that God is with Joshua. Like He was with Moses. So now we see that God did the same thing with Joshua. That He did that they crossed over on dry ground also. So now they know that God is with us because God perceived the same kind of miracle that He did with Moses. So now they see that's why God had all them make all them gather around. They're about to see something amazing. They're gonna know that I'm with you. I'm with y'all, just like I was with Moses. So as the Israelite move forward, so this title is going a step of faith. So as the Israelite move forward, they hit another roadblock. The Jordan River. Just like they hit a roadblock with the Red Sea. So a certain time of the year, the Jordan River slowly slowly flow until it reaches the salty water of the Dead Sea. So during these times, it is difficult to wade across, but the Israelite, however, reached the Jordan at the flood season. So it was the flood season, time they had to enter the Jordan River. Look, like I said, when a priest was standing in the middle of the water, that water was just flowing because they was in the midst of the flood season. So the water is rushing past 10 to 12 feet deep. That's what I'm saying. And then they had to go in the middle of the water. So that water was deep, and they had to just stand there. So past 10 to 12 feet deep, that water. So it is easy to step into a shadow and slow moving Jordan River. But God called the people of Israel to take that step of faith. Because you remember the last generation, they ain't had no faith at all. They had refused to they enter into their land. Now this group here, they're stepping out on faith. They walking, they about to conquer, their land. They're walking out on faith. They're walking out on faith into Jordan at the peak of the flood season. So they're doing all this in the flood season. This is the flood season. But they had to cross over. So they're stepping out on faith. They're willing, to go to their promised land. So immediately the river had stopped flowing and they had crossed over on dry ground. They had faith. They had faith. So this story about the Israelite crossing over to Jordan to get to their promised land. And then he had the priests. So God had to show them a sign, that I'm with Joshua, just like I was with Moses. Because they were like, you give Joshua this big old test, this big old job. Is you gonna be with Moses? Just like you were with you're gonna be with Joshua just like you were with Moses. So God had to show them a sign. To let them know, yeah, I'm gonna be with Joshua. I'm gonna be with Joshua. I'm not gonna leave y'all or forsake y'all until y'all enter into that promised land. So God had the priests. The priests, they're the only one is able to allow to hold and touch their ark. So God told them to go in the middle of the seawall. In the age part. And see, a lot of time God tell us to do something we don't understand. But at the end of the day, it makes sense. It makes sense at the end of the day. So they did what God instructed them to do. So when they got to that part of the middle of that water, and trust me, that I saw the movie, it waving backward and forward, and then they got that big arc. So when they got in a part that God had wanted them at, then the flow of the water had stopped. It had completely cut off. And once that water had cut off and the water had stopped, Then the Israelite was allowed to walk across on dry ground. So the priest and the ark, they were standing on dry ground, because when they got to the place that what God wanted them there, God used His power and stopped all that water, and the water had stopped, and they were able to walk on dry ground. So God had showed them that I'm with Joshua, just like I was with Moses, and God had perceived a miracle for them to walk on dry ground. And then we have the Israelite that step out on faith. They step out on faith. They wasn't afraid like the other ancestors was. So that we have part two of crossing on the lake. I'll come back with you with that later on, or either tomorrow. So that's all the word I have for you on today. And y'all have a blessed day, and I'll see y'all on the next video.